This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about first-time escalator rides, classic television catchphrases, and the simplicity of Myposian grammar. All that and more as we watch Season 7, Episode 8 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Cousin Imran. I'm here with you every week with my cousin sister, Sophia.
What's up?
How's it going, sis?
It's going well. You know what we're coming up to?
What's that?
Very soon. 2 big landmark dates.
Ooh.
One is your birthday
Oh, no, let's not talk about it.
on April 5th, but the next is April 6th, which was a landmark which was meant to be April 5th, but I got in too late. But April 6th marks my 2 years of being back home in Chicago.
Oh, man. It's been 2 years
I drove
already.
all day on April 5th. I didn't make it in time, but got in after midnight.
That's
2 years in Chicago.
Wow, that seems like it went by
home,
really quickly.
Really fast. But, you know, I've been enjoying it. It's good. Time in Chicago, you become a Chicagoan again.
Well, you know, there's another transport to Chicago that's also been here a couple
Got
of years.
a few years on me.
Would you consider yourself, well, you're from here, so
I'm
you're a
from
Chicagoan.
here, yeah.
How many years does it take to call yourself a Chicagoan? Is it 5? Is it 7?
Is it however many years Balky's been in America, in Chicago?
Possibly is, because he knows a lot of things about Chicago. Does he? We'll find out. Also, similar to Balky, big transition with their mom, just like us in the last 2 years.
That's right.
That's what we're going to get this week on Perfect Strangers, Season 7.
Heavy presence of the mom
The
character. The mother character.
This mother, almost as fun as our mother. I don't know. I'd put them both together in a room. We'll see. Season 7, Episode 8 of Perfect Strangers is titled Citizenship, Part 1.
Part 1.
It is a Part 1.
You know, if I was the writers and I really wanted to show that Balky became a Chicagoan, I would have him say gym shoes.
Instead of sneakers?
Yeah.
Is that what we say here?
It's very Chicago.
Does he got to walk around with an Italian beef sandwich?
Every time I've been out and about in the world and I hear someone, hasn't been a handful of times, I hear someone in my peripheral hearing say gym shoes, I spin around and say, "Are you from Chicago?" And they always are.
You know why? This is why I think. Because I believe Illinois is one of the only states mandated you have to take physical ed every day.
Gym class, yeah.
Gym class every day. When I got to college and I found out that kids just had to take gym once a week, I was
what
like,
a heartbreak.
What?
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Fair.
I didn't have to go all through that torture of gym class every day. If I was in a different state, get out of the city.
Get out of the city.
It made me so mad at the Illinois education system, I'll tell you what. Although
gym shoes, and also we pronounce it Paulina.
And also, it's not pop, it's not soda, everything's just Coke.
Well, people disagree on that. There are differences in that.
Is it a grinder? Is it a hoagie? Is it a Subway? Anyways, there's all
let's
these
find out how much of a
things.
Chicagoan Balky has become. If you were to open the TV guide back in 1991, you would have read about this episode. Larry flies Mama Bartakamus in as Balky prepares to be sworn in as a U.S. citizen.
Oh, exciting.
Part 1 of 2.
That's a big milestone. That's something I can't relate to also.
No, we were just born.
Yes, we were. It was unfair. The cast this week features Bronson Pinchot doing double duty as Balky Bartakamus and Mama Bartakamus. Mark Lynn Baker, of course, as Larry. The girls are here. Rebecca Arthur as Marianne. Melanie Wilson is Jennifer Appleton, and a quick cameo from Belita Moreno, Lydia, and Sam Anderson's Mr. Gorpley. Yep. And it's a weird cameo. We'll get to that. It is a weird
cameo. This episode aired on November 8th, 1991. But hey, were our parents sworn in? Was there like a ceremony? I guess we were.
That is a good question.
Too little. I've never heard them talk about any ceremony.
There definitely are American U.S. citizens. I know
they are, but did they? But
we need to find that out.
Did they just time it at, like, isn't there like a timeout way to be, like, you just stay long enough and you become, or do you still have to do the test and everything.
This is a question we need to ask the mother, because I don't think I've ever heard this story, but that's a very good question.
All right, we'll ask and
we'll find out. We'll report back. Perfect Strangers, of course, you can watch along on Amazon Prime Video for a small fee. And people have been purchasing and listening from the beginning. We got a couple of new listeners. Shout out to Brian Goff. He listens to my other podcast, and he told me he started listening.
Oh, hi, Brian.
To Dance of Joy, and he bought the episodes to watch along, too, in the first season.
Thank you, Brian.
So it's a lot of fun. He does a similar show about Parks and Rec.
Ooh, what's it called?
It is called Citizens of Pawnee.
Okay.
And it's a Parks and Rec recap.
I love Parks and Rec. I will listen to your show, Brian.
So, yeah, he listens to Jock and Nerd. We chat a lot about doing a TV. His show, a little bigger, a little more relevant still.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
But
we have a very niche market.
But we are bringing this classic back to market. I'll tell you what, the 90s and the 80s are still alive.
How many people have purchased the episodes because of our podcast? At least 2.
I really need to talk to Amazon and get a cut of these.
Yeah, we got you 2 sales, Amazon.
Send me 20 cents, Amazon, and we go with 10 cents.
Where's our money, Amazon? Okay, let's get focused, Javeds. Focus. That's the first time I've said that in the plural. I say that to myself all the time.
Oh, it's the second time. You did it once before.
Oh, I did? Okay, second time. Focus. All right, Act 1 of Citizenship, Part 1. We start in the big new house in the living room, and we see Larry coming in the front door, and he's dragging this huge, wooden crate box, massive, in through the door, and he's yelling for Jennifer and Marianne to come and meet him, and they run in from the other side. We find out that Balky's not there. He's still downtown taking his citizenship test.
He's taking the test right now.
And Larry's like, good, I have a surprise for Balky.
This is funny.
And Marianne goes, oh, you got him a wooden box. He doesn't have one that size.
Poor innocent Marianne. I love it.
And Larry says, no, that's not it. The surprise is that he brought Balky's mother. He flew Balky's mother from Mypos so that she could attend the swearing-in ceremony when Balky becomes a citizen. And he says he just picked her up from the airport. And Marianne... You see her eyes get red. She's looks at this box, and she runs to the box and shoves Larry out of the way. And she goes, "Oh my God, we've got to get her out of there." She thinks I was kind of thinking that too.
To be honest, to be fair to Marianne, I thought the gag would be also that Mama Bartakamus is this is how she travels.
Yeah, they set that up for us to think,
and maybe the box would be luxurious to her, and she preferred this. But Jennifer goes, Marianne, Balky's mama's not in the crate. And then she turns to Larry and goes,
she's not, right?
Is she, Larry? Because she's not sure either.
No, it turns out that big crate is just Mama's luggage. And he said Mama's still outside. She's staring at the mailbox. She's never seen one before. They're
all standing by the door looking out the open door. And then Mama Bartakamus enters. And she goes, Larry. And she's chattering in Myposian.
Oh, yeah.
And then runs back outside. Now, this, to be clear, we'll get into a little bit later. This is Bronson Pinchot in heavy makeup.
In
and
full
foam
on
and
Mrs.
latex.
Doubtfire, although this was before Mrs.
It is very Doubtfire reminiscent, but Mrs. Doubtfire doesn't come out until 1993. So maybe Robin Williams was inspired by this episode.
Or there I know other people were doing this, like Eddie Murphy was doing this, but maybe not as early as the 90s.
Well, I mean, to have male actors dress as old women, that's not a new thing in theater and just in, in
But anyway, Mama here is like a big, hefty woman. So he's like in a fat suit with prosthetic nose and all, like really good makeup. You can barely tell it's him. Okay, so then she runs back outside. Then what happens?
Then you hear the sound of something, and she walks back in carrying the whole mailbox, the stump with is the outside mailbox. You know where you put the flag up that's on a post. So she's carrying the
post, and the mailbox. She like just hoisted it out of the ground, I guess.
And she sets it down next to the box.
And she's chattering away and excited, Myposian, screechy high mama voice.
And Larry says she says she's going to take this little tree with her back to Mypos. And Jennifer's like, well, Larry, I didn't know you spoke Myposian.
And Larry says he's picked up a lot because he's been living with Balky. And also he pulls out this little like pocket dictionary. He's like, I took this I took his Myposian English dictionary so I could communicate with her.
Oh, that's so. A dictionary is like a Duolingo on paper. These days.
It's like basically. It's like Google Translate. Like Google if you print out all the words and alphabetize them and bind them together.
But I believe they still have these when you're traveling to countries. There's dictionaries.
But
nobody uses them anymore.
As long as there's Wi-Fi.
You can literally hold up the
Google
phone.
Translate is so good. Images,
and have
audio.
the person talking to it, and it'll translate. You talk back, it translates back. It's wild. That's wild. It's what made the world a whole lot smaller. Mm-hmm. And then Mama goes, "Oh, what can the cooking the bichiniki?" And he goes, "She loves our beautiful walk-in kitchen." At which point, Mama Bertakamus walks to the fireplace, flings the screen aside, and bends over and sticks her head inside the fireplace.
She thinks the fireplace is the kitchen.
That's the walk-in kitchen. Remember, Balky made the joke earlier. He's like, "Look at this walk-in fireplace."
Yeah.
And then, so, that's his mom. Goofy. So she thinks this is the walk-in kitchen. And then she stands up and she goes, "Wow." So it's so cute because you see a lot of Balky's mannerisms and sayings in his mama.
And then she says, "Wow." And then Balky translates that Larry translates that for the girls. She says, "Wow." And he said, Marianne asks if she speaks any English at all. And Larry says a little bit. She learned English from watching American TV shows.
Yes.
So then we get this whole string of catchphrases from American TV shows that Mama says in her
TV shows,
screechy, high-pitched, Myposian accented voice. So she goes, "Lucy, I'm home."
Of course, that's I Love Lucy.
And she goes, "Here's Johnny."
Of course, Johnny Carson's intro Tonight Show.
And she goes, "Book 'em, Dano."
Okay, so if you don't know this one, you kind of get it later.
know.
The Book 'em, Dano is the famous line said in the show Hawaii 5-0, which then she starts humming the theme song. The Hawaii 5-0 goes, and she's like gyrating and dancing.
Yeah.
It's super funny.
Super fun.
So, like you said, like the makeup is really good.
Yeah.
And him playing Mama is hilarious. And so she keeps going as Larry tries to walk her over to the sofa. And she's like, her
hips are just shaking. Yeah.
So in this shot, they're standing in front of the sofa. There's a coffee table. You will also notice there's a giant black square. That is what we call television. It's a giant tube TV. They weren't flat.
They weren't flat. They were boxy.
There was a tube. You couldn't just hang them on the wall. You really needed a big footprint to store your TV. So there's a TV there. So she finally stops singing, and he's like, she wants everyone to call her Mama. And he introduces the girls to Mama. And Larry goes, Mama, this is Jennifer.
My wife.
Oh, his wife. Yes,
yeah.
He says, my wife.
And Mama's like, Jennifer. And she like hugs her, and she's like,
very pretty.
Hello, very pretty,
nice.
Very nice.
So funny. Then Larry goes, and this is Marianne. Now you got to imagine, Mama has heard about Marianne, right, from Balky. So she's quite excited.
So she's like, Mariana, very nice, very sweet, pretty.
It's a pretty,
and then she like steps back and looks Marianne up and down. And she goes, where's the hippie? Where's the beef?
Where's the beef? She says.
She's like, makey baby key.
And then she starts to make the cradling motion like,
she goes, itty Balky, little Balky. She goes, no, I don't think so. That's a big no can do.
That's a big no can do.
She thinks Marianne is too skinny.
Marianne is really skinny.
But Jennifer's equally as skinny. She didn't.
Yeah, but Jennifer isn't going to be her future daughter-in-law and give birth to her future grandson or daughter.
Yeah.
So she's like, where's the beef? Where's the beef, of course? Yes. Classic rhyme to the Wendy's commercial. Starring that old lady, Clara Pella.
Yeah, and she always used to say, where's the beef?
At all the other burger places, there's no, where's the beef? And remember how big that was?
I don't think people remember this.
Oh my God.
Anymore. Only old people like us. Yeah.
It was a very, very good slogan, very good bit. It was huge. There were stickers and patches. I remember. It was pop culture phenomena.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you're going to get this running bit about Marianne being too skinny to birthday babies. When we hear a car outside, and it's Balky.
Yeah, we hear the car pulling up somehow. Yeah. And then everyone's like, oh no, it's Balky's home. And then Mama gets excited. She starts going, Balky. But then Larry's like, no, this is supposed to be a surprise. And he's trying to hide Mama in the closet.
Yeah, right by the door.
And she just keeps saying, Balky. And she's like, no. He's like, no, you have to hide in here. Okay, right. And then
He's like, no, Mama, this is not your room.
Yeah, and she starts taking things out of the closet and flinging them into the living room.
And then finally Larry goes, okay, this is your room. This is your room. Here you go. Here you go. All right. And he shoves her in the closet and closes the door.
Just in time for Balky, also played by Bronson Pinchot, to run into the house. And he's doing this like old-timey, like Charleston style dance, and he's kicking and running around the room saying, I'm almost a Yankee Doodly Dandy.
I'm almost
a Yankee Doodly Dandy. And then he says, a Yankee Doodly Do or Die. And then we find out he passed his citizenship test.
And the whole audience like applauses. It's crazy. They're like, oh, and they all hug. It's a big deal.
And all that's left for him to become an official citizen of the USA is to get sworn in at the federal building.
Except he says, I will be official citizen of the USA as soon as I go down to the federal building and get sworn at.
And get sworn
in. Sworn at. Which is also kind of funny to think about. That's how you got to get in.
Yeah,
you just show up and they
just
swear at you. And if you can take it, you're in.
You're in.
That would be hilarious.
Oh, that could be a fun sketch to write.
Yeah, you misunderstood. The
not swearing in, it's a swearing at. I'm going to write that down,
This is a swearing at.
I'm going to write that down.
You could go really blue with it with some filthy language, or you can make it clean. It could work both ways. It's a good bit. So he is excited to call his mama. And he's like, I can't wait to tell Mama that soon Uncle Sam will really be my uncle. And he picks up the phone, and Larry's like, wait, hold on, Balky. And Balky's like, no, I got to call Mama. He starts dialing.
He only presses like two
buttons, and then you hear a muffled,
Balky?
And he's like, what?
Balky looks into the phone receiver, and he's like, Mama? And then again, we hear Balky. And he goes, cousin, this is amazing. I didn't even dial, and she knew I was calling. She must have ESPN. A joke we've heard a few times already.
That's like the third time they've used the ESPN joke. But, yeah. And then, then he's like, Mama, it's me, Balky. And then you get this great bit where Mama says, Balky. Larry says, Balky. And then Balky goes, Mama. And then it goes back to Mama, Balky. And Larry's like, Balky. And Balky's like, Mama. And it goes like three times.
Balky, Mama.
Balky, Mama. Finally, Larry just slams on, he like pounds on the door.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh.
And then he says, Mama's not on the phone. She's here. And he opens the door. And Mama comes out and she goes, Balky. And they have a big embrace, my baby key. And Balky's super excited. And they hug and they speak in Myposian. She's telling Balky that he's her baby and she loves him. And that she just wants to go to her room and relax. And she starts going back to the closet. But then she goes to Marianne and she looks her over once again. She just looks her up and down again. And she's like, no.
And then I love this. She goes over to Jennifer. She goes, oh, very pretty. And she grabs her top teeth.
Yeah.
Jennifer's teeth and tugs at him. She's like, oh, that's good.
She's of good, solid bone stock and like strong. Yeah.
She's grabbing her teeth. It's so funny. And then she pinches and smacks Larry's cheek.
And then
remember that TV I mentioned that was on the table for no reason?
On the coffee table. She walks over to the coffee table, picks up the television, and it's meant to be like a little heavy and hefty.
She kind of tugs it as if to imply she just like yanked it out of the wall,
and
the
then
fourth wall.
Quasar.
Quasar was a popular brand of televisions back in the day.
And she carries it back into the closet, puts it inside. Then she goes, good night, John boy. And then goes in the closet and closes the door.
Because she still thinks the closet was her room. The good night, John boy, another classic TV reference from the Waltons, where when they all went to sleep at night, they'd be like, good night, John boy. So you get a lot of these great TV lines. That's the end of Act 1. Let's talk about this makeup for a second. I got some details here.
Okay.
Yeah, it took Bronson 5 hours to put on this getup. It was nylon and foam with special prosthetics to the face, as well as, get this, 16-pound breasts.
Oof, yeah, they were big.
It total 8 each? So he's like being weighed down.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's wearing a special undergarment that NASA has used
for Perfect Strangers
to keep cool, where you could put cooling solutions pumped through the suit so he wouldn't get too hot in this giant foam and latex thing. And then The other thing I learned was that the earrings that he's wearing actually belong to his great-grandmother named Fortunata. Bronson Pinchot's great-grandmother.
Cool.
Now, you'll also notice when they're hugging, when Balki and Mama are in the shot, sometimes it's green screen, sometimes it's a double. This is Bronson's younger brother again, Justin.
Yeah.
Remember the episode Because They're Cousins?
Yeah.
So he stepped in to play the double in that one in the over the shoulder shots. So Bronson's brother is there. He's playing both Balki and Mama, although he didn't have to put on all the makeup for Mama. So I wonder if we'll catch that when they do the reverse shot that she doesn't have a lot of makeup. It's different.
Well, it's probably just the back of her head.
Yeah, it's just the wig. They didn't need to put that on.
Yeah.
Right.
And how do you think they did the live studio audience?
I don't think they did. I think they filmed things separately. The parts where they're both on the screen together, you wouldn't be able to do that live.
Obviously. Well, you would with the brother.
Oh, well, the reverse shots, but the shots where they're both there, you could see it's kind of like composited.
Yeah.
So I don't think all of this was shot live. Some of it was done without a studio audience, adding some laughter. Anyways, that's the end of Act 1. Listener, you can join this conversation. Let us know if you think this inspired Mrs. Doubtfire and Robin Williams in 1993, just a few years later.
Virginia Doubtfire.
Pop it. You can join our Facebook group. It's called Dance of Joy Podcast Group something. There's a link in the episode description. I forget what it's called.
Exactly
You'll find
what
it.
It's called.
But I post a thread there of every episode we're going to record ahead of time as we get to the end of this show. You can watch along, leave your comments, observations, meet other fans of Perfect Strangers and listeners of this show.
All right, Act 2. We start, now we're in the basement, we're at work. They've brought Mama to work.
Oh, Mama's got to see it where they work.
We're in the basement of the Chronicle. First, it's just Larry at his desk, sort of like working, but then Marianne and Jennifer come from the garage side, and they have with them Mama Bartakamus. And she's got a lot of shopping bags, and they've been shopping, apparently. And she sees Larry, says, "Cosa, Larry?" And then she goes, "Look at this, Mama Shaparuniki."
Shaparuniki. And she's got all these bags, and Larry's like, what's going on? I thought you were just taking her sightseeing. Yeah. And Jennifer's like, she wanted souvenirs, and apparently it's a Myposian tradition. If you can lift it, it's yours. Good to know.
So then Mama reaches into one of the bags and pulls out like a street sign, like a toe zone.
This is just pulled off the post.
And it hands it to Larry, and he's like, "Oh, lovely." And then she goes into another bag, and she pulls out an entire like parking meter.
The top of the parking meter. And as she gives it to him, she goes, "This is a statement of something."
This is a statement. Yeah,
it's weird. She knows English every now and then, but she's like, "This is a statement."
Also, the Myposian in this whole episode is really goofy and
yes, it's
silly.
so great though because it's easy to speak Myposian. Because Larry goes, "Did you buy anything?" And he goes, "You make any purchasikis?"
That's
all you gotta do.
Like
the siki at the iki at the end. You'll see. And Mama goes, "Purchasiki," and she starts singing, "You make me feel like a natural woman," as she pulls out this shiny blue sequin dress.
Yes.
And holds it up and she goes, like a natural woman. So she bought it to make herself feel good. And Larry's like, "Mama, you're going to look lovely in that." And she doesn't understand this. So he has to translate. He goes, "Mama, sex pistoliki."
Sex pistol. Ooh, that's racy for a TGIF.
And she's like, "Oh no!" And she like pushes.
She does that thing that Balki and him do.
Larry's like, "No, I mean it." And she goes, "Oh no!" Pushes him a little harder. He goes, "Oh, go on." Then she pushes him away with his face. He almost falls over. She's got to catch him. It's really funny. See, Balki gets that from her.
Yep.
Too.
And conveniently, Larry tells her that she has just missed Balki.
And she's like, "Balki."
They really have like some codependency issues, Mama and Balki, even though they've been apart for years.
He's still a mama's boy. Look, once you're mama's boy.
Spoiled. Yeah, he's like the little baby.
And Larry's like, he'll be back in a minute. And then he's got to translate in a microsecond. In a microsecond.
So goofy. I'm almost mad. I always get mad because I'm a language nerd. I'm like, ugh. This is so not right.
Lazy.
It's
more lazy
funny,
language.
but it's so lazy.
There's more lazy language bits. So Jennifer, the girls, is like, "We got to get going. We've been running around all morning." She goes, first we took Mama to see the city. And Mama goes, Wiggly Field.
Wiggly Field. No, it's Wrigley Field.
And then she goes, then we took her shopping. And she goes, Jarjit.
Yeah.
That's all she learns. And then she goes, but her favorite thing was the escalator. And then Mama goes, escalator. Escalator. So apparently there's no stairs in Mypos because she runs around to the stairs in the back of the room and gets on one stairs and just waits for it to move. And then she kind of gestures with her body. She's like, come on,
go.
Let's go. And then Larry's like, Mama, it's broken. And she goes, what? And he goes, it's broken. Bustakaki. Yeah, I like that one. They tried a little harder.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like they tried.
Let's talk about the escalator because I have actually been in other countries and watched grown people
freak out on escalators?
Step on the escalator for the first time.
No.
So I'll tell you what happened. And this thing about no stairs in Mypos, that's kind of Bible. So I lived in a village, in Central Asia.
Yeah.
And there are cities in Central Asia with stairs, with escalators, mostly in like big shopping malls or metro stations, right? But in the village, there weren't really multi-story homes. They were all like, you
would have need stairs.
Yeah, there weren't many. I mean, obviously they have TV, they've seen stairs, they know. But I had two host sisters in the family I was staying with that were teenagers at the time, and I would take them into the city sometimes to where my other American friends were in apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And we would and also in the city we would like walk a lot, like from place to place, and they would get so tired. They'd be like more walking because they were like young, they were in heels too. I'm like, well, who told you to wear those? They were like, we're going to the city, we're gonna dress fancy. So that's how people think. I'm like, well, course you don't want to walk. And then the stairs, they would just be like, ugh. But here's the thing, these girls, their upper bodies, like they could have killed you because
they're carrying things all the time.
They baked bread, they made dough, they were like doing farm work and stuff like that, but like garden work. But they just weren't used to walking in stairs.
Okay.
And then it wasn't even in that country. Like I met up with one of the I met up with one of those sisters later, like some years later in Moscow. And I brought her to Moscow. She was living on the outskirts somewhere. I brought her to the city and we were at like a mall or a metro or something. And I saw her like step on the escalator for the first time. And it was amazing. It gave me like chills. But yeah, so that's a fun thing.
The only time I remember was when I was a kid, and the first time you step on an escalator, you're like,
scary.
"Whoa!"
Yeah.
But as an adult, I would freak out. I'd be like, "Why isn't all the walkways moving all the time? This is great."
And now they probably have done it a million times. But
so, anyways, he goes Bustakaki, and she goes, "Oh, bummer," and she like kicks the stairs like it's not working. It's kind of funny. So the girls are leaving, and of course, Mama's got to give each of them a goodbye as well. And again, she goes to Jennifer, grabs the front teeth
again.
These are very nice. She goes, don't forget to brush and floss. She goes, Jennifer. And then she gets Marianne, holds her hands up, and she goes, you got to eat, okay? Eat. But they walk away, and Marianne just goes, she hates me.
And then we get this strange little cameo scene. I don't know for what reason, but it's very confusing. We see from the archives, the other side of the room, Mr. Gorpley runs out and Lydia's chasing him and he's got his shirt half untucked.
They're giggling.
And they're giggling and flirting. And the implication is that they were canoodling in the archives.
Because she goes, and you said you were ticklish to him.
But that's so confusing because they usually bicker. I mean, those are the people who are in love with each other, but they usually bicker and pick on each other and insult each other.
That kind of makes sense, though.
Yeah, it does.
They were insulting each other because they had deeper feelings.
Yes. So, okay,
but this is the first instance.
But like they're canoodling at work.
All these years later, the first instance of them canoodling at work.
And he was like, I was just helping Lydia with some research.
Yes,
and
research.
Tucking his shirt back in. But like at work in the middle of the day, come on.
Man, the Chronicle has no HR department.
No
I don't
HR.
know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just anything goes.
It was the early 90s before HR was like a serious thing.
Yeah, they're probably drunk too. Nobody cares. And so Larry brings Mama over to introduce them. He's like, Mama, these are friends of Balky. And she goes, Balky? And they both introduce. And again, she goes, oh, very nice, very sweet. Thank you, very nice.
And then Gorpley takes his opportunities and he makes sure he's like, does she speak any English? And Larry's like, not really. He goes, oh, good. And he looks at her and he goes, Mrs. Bartokmas, your son is an idiot.
Oh, my God, Gorpley.
But
that's rude.
he thought she wasn't going to understand, but she did. And she goes, "Oh, wise guy, eh?"
And she instantly turns into Curly from the Three Stooges. Yeah. She goes, "Wise guy." She grabs his nose, winds up, and like knocks it off. And then she does the little Curly shuffle backwards.
So they're kicking one leg behind her.
Kicking one leg over. She's like, barking, yeah. And then she's barking at him. And she turns to Larry and holds up 2 fingers. And Larry knows the defense.
Yeah.
He puts his hand up on his face so that when she goes to poke his eyes out, it's blocked.
Yeah.
He's got and he's like, what is going on? It's so funny. She just turns into Curly from the Three Stooges.
And he explains she might not speak English, but she understands a lot. And then Lydia... And then Lydia and Gorpley make their exit, and Lydia says she's taking him to lunch. She says, "But if anyone sees us, we are not together."
Oh my God, she's embarrassed by Sam, but she wants to be with Sam Gorpley. What a weird relationship.
Also, it's like a weird workplace thing, so they should keep it on the down low.
Everybody knows now. You just came out giggling with your shirt untucked.
And they leave.
It's so funny how they just...
I wonder if they're going to follow up with that.
Will this continue?
Yeah.
Does this relationship continue? Or are they just having a fling? It's just like a little fling. Anyways. And then Balky comes in from the back, and he says something weird. He says, "Cousin Larry, I got your mail back." Where did the mail go?
Where did the mail go?
It was in a cut scene earlier.
Okay.
Where Balky gave everybody the wrong mail, and he had to go back.
To underscore the point that he's an idiot?
Maybe. He had screwed up and gave everybody else's mail. He had to go back and
How long has he been doing this job?
I know.
Although I still screw up at my job.
It's been years. All you got to do is give the mail to the right person. Anyways, he sees her and he goes, "Mama." And she goes, "Balky, babiki."
Babiki, Balky, baby. And he wants to show her the building. And he's like, "Come on." And the first thing he wants to show her, of course, is the elevator. And they both stand on either side of the elevator. We see it's now split screen, and one side, I think the Balky side, is green screen. And he says, "Mama," very slowly. He goes, Ina elevator." This is an elevator.
That's Myposian for "this is an elevator."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Ooh," and she presses the button and the door opens and she just goes, "Wow."
And she steps inside, and this is what she's heard on television, I suppose. She goes, "Housewares, notions, ladies' dresses, going up." And as she says going up, she like raises the hem of her skirt a little, and she starts cracking up. And then she goes, "Where do I come up with them?"
Oh, the same catchphrase.
And then
the elevator door just closes.
And off she goes by herself. Where is she going?
And Balky's just standing there laughing. He's not worried at all.
Mama just like left into the building somewhere.
There's no way they could have got them both in the elevator facing forward. I don't think that the technology was there.
They're not even explaining where she's going.
It just looks like Mama just gets sent off to some part of the building. How are you going to find her?
Where is she going? How are you going to find her?
It doesn't matter. They found her later because we transitioned to later that night. It was barely an inconvenience at all. It's fine. Later that night, and we see Mama Bartakumas making dinner for everybody.
Yeah, because
she's got a casserole dish she pulls out. It's very interesting looking.
Like a bed of pink stuff and all these,
and then rows of snouts in this pink mush.
It looks like pink, like mashed potatoes or something.
Oh yeah, mashed potatoes with beets, or like I don't know what it is. It's bright pink, and she's calling out everyone to come eat. Right? She goes, "Cousin Larry." Then she goes, Mrs. Cousin Larry. Then she goes, "Skinny Minnie," meeting Marianne. And then another random bit. She's walking over. She just starts singing "Chain of Fools."
What is Chain of Fools? Oh yeah.
Chain of Fools. I don't know why that has to do with anything.
Who knows?
Just the song she likes from America.
And they all come in, except for Balky. The girls and Larry come in, and they're like, "Oh, everything looks beautiful." And then Larry does that thing where he sniffs in the air. He goes, snout.
Snout. He knows the smell of snout by now.
And then Marianne asks Mama for her recipe because she says, "I hear the way to a man's heart is through his snout."
That's funny. Through his stomach.
And then
Mariana, come.
Yeah.
And Mama waves her over, and she takes a scoop of the pink mush stuff and feeds it to Marianne. And Marianne's being polite. She eats it. She's like, And then she grabs another spoonful and sticks it in while she's still eating the first spoonful. And then she gets really aggressive and grabs Marianne by the waist and starts just force feeding her because we know she's trying to fatten her up to have a baby.
And then Jennifer tries to pull Marianne away, and then Mama starts feeding Jennifer too.
In his mouth,
and
in her
Larry
mouth.
splits it all up. He's like, come on, let's all sit down. He separates them. And
then there's a great visual gag. She gives him a spoonful, but she spoons a whole snout and pink stuff on one spoon.
And he turns it
down.
down.
Whoa, no, that's okay.
And then they go to sit down, and it's very strange seating arrangement.
Tell us about the seating arrangement.
It's this big, long dinner table in the kitchen, which hasn't been there before, I might add. It wasn't.
Wait, before they go to sit down. No, there was a kitchen table. Before they sit down.
I don't think so.
There is this funny bit, and it reminded me of something. I'm going to play a clip and share it with you because Mama Bartakamus is calling for Balki.
Yeah.
She goes, Balki, as Larry grabs the snout. And then she gets all mad. She's like, Balki, like she's angry at him that he's not there. It's like, and then Larry just goes, Balki went to get dessert. And she goes, never mind. Which reminded me of this. I got to play this. It's about a little over a minute.
Okay.
It is a clip from Saturday Night Live. Weekend Update. Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner from 1976. Okay? This is what it reminded me of.
Weekend Update recognizes its obligation to present responsible opposing viewpoints to our editorials. Here with an editorial reply is Miss Emily Latella.
What's all this fuss I keep hearing about violins on television? Now, why don't parents want their children to see violins on television? Why, I thought the Leonard Bernstein concerts were just lovely. Now, if they only show violins after 10 o'clock at night, the little babies will all be asleep and they won't learn any music appreciation. Or they'll end up wanting to play guitar and bongo drums and go to Africa and join these rock and roll outfits, and they won't drink milk. I say there should be more violins on television and less game shows. It's terrible the way things...
Miss Latella, that was violence on television, not violins. Violence.
Oh, well, that's different.
Yes.
Never mind.
That is the best never mind you're ever going to hear.
I'm pretty sure that was what they were going
It had to be because they did the Emily Latella a couple times on SNL, and you always know it's going to be a misunderstanding, and she would just go, never mind. after getting worked up. I love that bit. It's so good.
So simple and so funny.
It's so brilliant.
What a good sketch.
Classic SNL. Okay, now we can talk about the seating arrangement because Larry brings the snout to the table, and we have this long kitchen, dining room table in the kitchen, whatever. Mama sits all the way to the left. Then you have Marianne sitting next to her, and then Jennifer from left to right, and then Larry sits next to Jennifer, and then there's an open chair at the end.
Yeah, so there's three of them all on one side.
You can't. Well, first of all, you need to clear
They do it on TV all the time.
The invisible fourth wall, right?
Yeah.
You can't have anybody sitting on this side, but you can't have Mama and Balki sitting next to each other.
Single cam, I guess.
Yeah, well,
multi-cam, whatever.
It's multicam, but because of the compositing and the green screening and him playing both parts.
Oh, right.
That's why they can't have them sitting together.
And that's why they can't have people on the other side of the table.
Well, you can't have people on the other side because that's your fourth wall that exists, but we don't see it.
Okay.
Anyway, look, it's the back of somebody.
It's a strange seating arrangement.
You always have to cheat towards the camera.
They're all sitting on one side. Okay.
That's why in the Last Supper, nobody's sitting on the other side, if you notice.
Because of the fourth wall.
Except for Judas. He's not following directions. That's a red flag on Judas.
Okay, so they go to the table and they all sit down, and then Balki walks in the back door on the other side, the back kitchen door, and he has like a pink bakery box, and he goes, "I've got bad news. Can you believe in a city the size of Chicago, not one single market carries goat gut pudding?"
Goat gut pudding. Mm.
I guess we're stuck with apple pie.
Oh,
and Larry's just like, we'll make do. We'll live with it. But also, he's not ever tried to look for goat gut pudding in all the time he's been in America. I don't know.
Well, it was never a special occasion like Mama showing up. So they all sit down, and Larry says, it's time for a toast. And Mama goes, what is toast? And Balki tells him, significanky clinky tinky.
Clinky tinky.
And she goes, oh, clinky tinky, we'll go for it, she says. And you'll notice this blue liquid is back. This must be some
from
Myposian
from when the king was there.
punch. Remember when the king was there? They're all holding windshield wiper fluid or Windex in their glasses. I don't know what's going on. They never explained the blue liquid.
Maybe it was a nod to Windex because in my big fat Greek wedding, and we know that Greek culture is similar to Myposian culture, but that was the joke. What year was my big fat Greek wedding?
That was late. That was later.
They made the joke about how Windex cures everything. Put Windex on it. Put some Windex on it.
That was early 2000s, 2002. Okay. That's right. That was funny.
So maybe that joke has been around for a while, but I don't know. It's a blue liquid. Okay, so Larry starts the toast. He said, "I'd like to officially welcome Mama to America."
And then Mama goes, "Land of the free, home of the Whopper," which is like the first line Balky said when he came to America on the show. Remember, at the door.
At Larry's
Cousin Larry's house. Yeah, I like that callback.
And then Larry...
Oh, you got to do this Myposian.
...recites something that he's taught himself in Myposian, and he says, "Optokiniki chertiki kantiki andropokomiga boing, 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 boing."
So the boing, boing, boing trails off, which is how you pronounce it, which is really funny. And then Balky starts laughing right away because cousin, you made a rather humorous linguistic error. He goes, optico, kinika, chertiki, kentiki, andropo, kimikemaka, boing, 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 boing. Means a person who has a driver's license. And then Mama starts singing In My Little Deuce Coupe.
Yes.
Which is like a car song.
Driving,
yeah. A little Deuce Coupe. And Balky goes, "Thank you, Mama." He goes, "Oh, what you meant to say is that I'm going to become an American citizen, which is optopoliticia
certifaniki americaniki politaniki ping pong pong
ping pong pong pong." So you got to trail off with the pong 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 pong, not the boing 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 boing.
And then Mama hears this and immediately stands up and she looks very angry. Balky goes, "Mama, what the biggie dealky?"
What the biggie dealky?
So
this is Myposian?
Silly.
It's Myposian English?
And it's kind of like funny. It's making me laugh and angry at the same time. What the biggie dealky?
Boing, 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 boing.
And she says, "Balky Americaniki Politaniki over my daddy-ki body-ki."
Okay, I think we can translate that.
She's very mad over her dead body. And Balky tells everyone that that she's upset because she thought she was coming here to see him get his driver's license.
When did she say that?
Well, no, because that's what Larry taught himself. So he probably told her that incorrectly too.
Yeah. So because you see Larry's face react because that's what he told her, and she looks at Larry and she goes, "Cousin Larry, Balky American citizen."
And Larry says, "Yes, Balky's becoming an American citizen."
And she goes, "No more Mypiat."
And she says, "That's right." He says, "That's right, Mama." Wait. First of all, so many questions. Like. Does Mypos require you to renounce your citizenship if you take American
Can you become double citizenship?
It depends on the other country. Yeah, a lot of people are dual U.S. and other citizens.
But if you become a citizenship of this country, are you not still a citizenship?
It depends on the country. That country, each country has different laws about that. Like I think for ours, there's no dual citizenship. Like our parents are only American.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of people who are dual U.S. and other citizens.
In UK or U.S. and Canada, I know.
Yeah, I think. So I guess for Mypos, it's implied that you cannot be a dual citizen.
You know, Tina Turner, at the end of her life, she became a Swedish citizen. Yeah. She renounced her U.S. and she lived in Sweden, which is interesting. So maybe that's the politics in Mypos. So Mama is mad, and she gets up and she reaches into her apron pocket and pulls out what looks like a chicken foot.
But it only has two
missing
claws.
A toe. And Balky's like, "Oh my God." And she starts to walk around the table, and then there's a great bit where she's walking behind Mary Ann and she gets stuck. And then she pulls herself through.
She's like a big woman.
Yes, big hippie woman. He's wearing 16-pound breasts. Let's remember that. So, but she pulls herself through, and then she turns back and looks at Mary Ann. It's a great look. She's just like, I thought you wanted her to be bigger, and now she's looking at her for being in the way. And then she walks over to Balky and gives him the chicken foot, which he takes. And then she says something. She goes, "Balky, I'm about
this." She starts crying and
runs off
out of the kitchen.
And you can hear her crying. And Balky is shook, and the Others are like, what just happened?
And Balky tells them that that Mama has just given him the one thing a Myposian boy never wants to get from his mama.
Larry goes, it looks like a chicken foot with one toe missing.
And Balky says, it's a chicken foot with one toe missing.
That's exactly what it is.
Which is the symbol of a Myposian mama's deepest grief.
That's weird.
Okay, hold on. Does she just always have
Why did
this?
she have it with her?
She's ready to be, she sounds like our mom,
Yes.
ready to express deep grief over anything we do.
Because she knows her kids are going to disappoint her at any minute. So you need to have this chicken foot with a toe missing handy at all times.
At all times.
But how did that come to be?
I think our mom might be a little bit Myposian.
What is the why
we should check
foot?
her apron pockets
Why
for chicken feet.
Missing toe chicken foot mean grief? Who knows? But Larry is confused. Because what is she grieving about? Balky tells him that she always assumed he would go back to Mypos and live there. And he goes, well, Balky, you just have to explain to your mama your life is here now. You can go back to Mypos to visit.
Which I'm sorry to say that, but this, like, as long as they've been living together all these years, and Larry still says all this like ignorant, like white man stuff. I really think it's like they're like, oh, it's just your mom, like, come on, whatever. You live here now. Forget her. And like, you don't understand all the like cultural trauma and baggage behind like, oh, just forget about your parents. Just put them in a home. Just do whatever. I'm like, okay.
That's a good observation. The other one is that Balky never mentioned he was going to be a citizen this whole time when he's been studying for months.
Yeah, or like how American he's becoming, the plans he's making. They all went in on a house rental together.
I thought they were close, Balky and his mama. I don't know.
But I don't know. Maybe it's like many other Eastern cultures or immigrant cultures where like you're close, you love your parents, but you don't tell them everything.
That's true.
You know.
So, So Larry doesn't understand. He's like, just talk to her. And Balky goes,
tell her you live here now. Just forget about her.
Balky goes, no, cousin, you don't understand. Mama has given me an ultimatum. Either I go back to Mypos with her, or I am no longer her son.
Stop. This was a real missed opportunity for that chicken foot to be literally an old tomato. And then he could have said, Mama has given me an old tomato.
Oh, an old tomato instead of ultimatum.
Instead of the chicken foot,
because
you
the chicken
pull out
foot
a rotten, juicy tomato or something.
She gave me an old tomato.
Real missed opportunity.
I have to go back. Okay, so the ultimatum is crazy. She can disown him if he doesn't go back. He says, and Larry's like, Balky, she can't mean that. And he goes, cousin, she gave me the chicken foot, okay? Like, it's a pretty done deal. He goes, I have to go back to Mypos. I'm going upstairs to pack. Oh, man.
And that's it. We cut to the next morning, and Balky's got like a duffel bag. And he comes down the stairs with his duffel bag, and Larry's still like in his pajamas and bathrobe or whatever. And Larry's like, you can't go. You can't do this. You have to listen to reason. And Balky says, cousin, we've been over this and over this. You can talk until the cows buy homes.
But it's not going to change anything.
But it's not going to change anything.
Cows come home, buy homes. It's kind of funny. And again, Larry's just being an ignorant Westerner. He goes, if I could just talk to her, I'm sure I could change her mind.
Oh, yeah.
But it's too late, as he tells her she's already gone.
Just be honest with your parents. Just tell them the truth. Just reason with them. I'm like, that doesn't work.
She left. Balky tells him she left this morning. He says she put her red eyes on the red eye. It's kind of a nice play on words. And Larry still is like, I'm not going to let you follow Mama back to Mypos. And then this whole part gets really emotional. It's actually quite good between the two of them. He's like, think of what you'll be giving up. Your job is here. Your girlfriend is here. Your future is here. And Balky's like, I can't break her heart. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
It's a real big.
I'm gonna go back. That's a tough
Larry
spot. I feel so bad
Larry
for her.
just doesn't even understand.
He doesn't get it.
And Balky's it's really a tough spot. And he says, I have to go back.
And then it gets even more sad as he's at the door and he pulls out Dimitri sheep and gives him to Larry. And he says, cousin, take care of him for me. I was like, oh my God, this is getting real.
Because he knows he's going back to Mypos where they sell those Dimitri sheep.
Oh, you can get another one. That's true.
On the street for 10 digdas.
And Larry's like, you're really going to do this? And he's like, yes, I am. And he goes, I already said goodbye to Marianne and Jennifer. He's like, tell them I'm sorry I made them cry. This is all very good, emotional, straight stuff both these guys are doing.
Yeah.
And Larry's like, I guess this is goodbye. And Balky can barely look him in the eye. And he's like, thank you for everything you've done for me over the last 5 years.
wait a minute.
So, and then Larry goes, well, I got back much more than I gave. So it's only been 5 years. This is season 7.
Yeah, but
season 1 was short.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't 1-to-1.
I don't think it was. I think so far we've seen 5 years in 7 seasons.
5 years and 7 seasons. Okay,
it's fine.
We have to clear that up for some of us.
It tracks. Yeah. It almost gives more reason for Belky to not know things really if you want.
And the other thing is, you have to remember why this scene is so emotional is like, and when we get to PS Today, maybe like, this was 1991. They didn't have video calls. They didn't have FaceTime. They had the phone. They had the post, like letters and the mail.
And even the international calls were not great, and they had to cost a lot of money.
And so, like, leaving places was like a bit. I remember a little bit later than this in the late 90s, early noughts when I started traveling in college and stuff and spending time. And every time I would leave, it was like a big deal because you're like, I don't know. You don't know. We didn't have. Barely had emails, but like people in other countries might not have had it where I was going.
You will not know when you're going to see them
I don't know if this is goodbye forever. I don't know how to. And then years later, some people started finding each other on Facebook and stuff. But there are still people that I think about all the time, and I don't know how to find them because we didn't have that kind of ways to connect back then.
No, so I'll tell you, the scene finishes with a hug. And Belky opens the door and he goes, I'll miss you, cousin. Don't forget me. There's tears in his eyes. And myself, it reminded me of like when I had to leave college and come back here from New York. Like that was super emotional because you're there for so long. I was there for like 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's also like anytime you leave a camp or when we were kids and we would go international.
This was a special time.
To Pakistan. Yeah. I remember even as a kid, when it was time to leave, I would start crying because when I got there, I hated it. I didn't want to be there. It was too hot. There was cockroaches. Yeah. But every time, by the end, I was like, I don't want to go. I got to miss you. And I'm crying.
That's where you and I are very different.
You had different reactions.
At the end, I was like, let's go.
But I think everyone can relate to this moment where you whether it's camp or college or whatever, you've been somewhere for years and you feel it, and then you leave and you just start crying.
It's like that camp experience.
Right?
It was always sad. And it's never going to be that way again.
But these two have had so much adventures for 5 years.
Exactly. 5 years.
He walks out the door. We transition to an outside shot and a caption that says 4 days later.
And a very sad looking Larry, Jennifer, and Marianne around the dinner table.
There's an empty chair all the way over to the right.
And Jennifer says, I'm sorry about the snout. I don't really have the hang of it yet.
Why are they still eating snout? Balky's not there. Do they actually like snout now? Are they getting used to it?
Balky left and they probably were like, you know what? Snout is good.
Or if I was them, I'd be like, oh my God, we don't have to ever eat snout again.
Yeah,
Let's get some burgers and some
pizza.
They
actually like it.
He turned them onto snout, I guess. And they're trying to make it.
But Jennifer's not good at it. And then Marianne says, Balky called today. He sends his love to everyone.
Oh.
And Larry says, I'm glad he made it back safe. And she says, Balky made it safely to Mypos, but his luggage went to Skeptos.
Oh, Skeptos, always causing problems.
Oh, those skeptics. And then he says,
imagine you go to Skeptos and you go like, my luggage accidentally got here. And the guy there's like, I don't think it did.
They just gaslight you.
They're just skeptical. I don't think you're telling me the truth. He's like, oh, stupid Skeptos. Skeptodians can't get my luggage.
It would have been funny if the luggage went to Kleptos, too.
Oh, he's never getting it back. They were like, it's probably a Kleptos.
And then Marianne tells them that Balky told her that he's going, as soon as he gets his clothes back, he's going to look for a job.
And she's like she's starting to choke up.
She's trying to tear up. She says, my heart is breaking into a million pieces.
Oh my God, this is really sad too.
I'm glad they wrote that in because when he was leaving, I was like, what about leaving Marianne?
We didn't get a goodbye or anything.
We didn't get that emotional. Like, that's a big deal too.
But when she says that, my heart is breaking into a million pieces, she's like, oh my God, this is so sad. Yeah. And Jennifer's like, Marianne, it's okay. He'll visit. And then Marianne turns to Jennifer and goes, Jennifer, you are so naive.
Which is
what an amazing
reversal,
twist.
Yeah.
She's calling Jennifer naive. And so it's really sad. And finally, Larry has had enough.
And he goes, listen to us. We're sitting around crying in our snout. And he says, I should never have let him go in the first place. Okay, so again, being very like American, like I'm going to fix this. I'm going to stop him from, like honoring his culture and his family.
But this whole thing is his fault. He gave the wrong translation.
Fair, yeah. And he like throws down his napkin. He gets up. He goes to the telephone. He goes, I'm going to Mypos. And they're like, what? He says, I'm going to Mypos. I'm going to bring Balky home. And he picks up the phone and he dials some number off the top of his head that he happens to know. He
just knows the airline.
And he goes, hello, Transcontinental Airways. That's a convenient name for an airline. And he goes, book me a seat on your next flight to Mypos.
And then there's a beat with all this dramatic music.
We hear like
up.
the lesson time
it's like,
music.
And then
it
stops.
The music stops and he goes, Mypos.
Here's some of the music come back in.
And then it stops again and he goes, Mypos.
Nobody's heard of Mypos.
And then we see the to be continued on the screen and roll credits.
Well, not
before
quite.
Roll credits.
Yeah, they do something they've never done in a two-parter.
It's not a last time on. It's like
next time. A preview.
Next week.
There's a shot of an island and it says Mypos and you see all this wacky stuff like a set with goats and it's
such a ridiculous like Mediterranean villagey looking.
Yes, this is a marketplace and
carts,
Bucky's wearing a Cubs shirt and Larry just shows up next to him and Bucky's surprised.
So they do like a few scenes from the next week's episode.
You see,
to preview what happens when Larry goes to Mypos. But what's funny, what I noticed in this is like Balky on Mypos is in blue jeans, which we don't see him in ever on the show.
Oh,
he's
like
jeans
super
and a Cubs
American
t-shirt.
Yeah.
Which is funny because in America, he dressed super Myposian. Now he's back in Mypos and he's dressing super American.
So that's funny because later there's a scene where so I guess this was doing Larry is wearing the vest and he's wearing like a Blackhawks t-shirt.
Yeah.
And Larry's like, this is my ticket to Chicago and he rips it up.
Is Larry going to stay? Are we shifting the whole show to Mypos?
And then my favorite little bit at the end is they're both drinking out of these giant bowls. And Balky goes, oh, by the way, you're drinking out of the goat's bowl. And he has a wonderful spit take right there. Perfectly timed.
Freeze frame.
Wait, and then there's a little bit of Larry and Mama Bartakabus doing the dance of joy. And then
what is going to happen?
Roll credits.
And then roll credits.
Listener, before we get into our thoughts, check out our TeePublic shop to get some Dance of Joy podcast swag, t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, cell phone cases, all with the logo. You can show off to your friends that you are part of a very niche, cool group, and they should also be part of it. danceofjoypod.com/shop will get you there.
Very fun merch. You're gonna love it.
Okay, so this episode, another interesting bit, I guess, around this time, Bronson Pinchot will go on the Arsenio Hall show a bunch of times. And I think it was this week he made a special appearance and got interviewed as Mama in the audience. It's kind of fun.
Of Arsenio Hall?
Yeah, on Arsenio Hall. So they had Mama. He had him put all that crap back on.
Hopefully it was the same day he was filming. So
because that suit is a nightmare to put on. Like you said, 5 hours, lots of foam. I'll tell you what, so far, out of season 7, this is my favorite episode. It has a little bit of everything.
Including unanswered questions.
Lots of unanswered questions, but you got lots of fun wordplay.
Comedy, wordplay.
Bronson playing his mom.
Sheep
Great Dimitri. There's emotion. There's heart. Something big happens. Great wordplay. Good TV catchphrases.
I tell you what, last week I couldn't even find a fun quote to pull for my Twitter post.
There's tons in this one.
Yeah.
And him playing his mama is really funny. Like I thought he did a great job. The makeup looked great.
Yeah, I really think it was remarkable, especially because it was pre Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Because it was that same kind of like hefty, big, matronly type of woman.
Although
body.
he did take away a role from an older lady to play his mom.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, there's that discussion wasn't around in 91. It's around now.
He's like, you all got to play both.
The other thing is some of these other questions. Like, yeah, I agree. Totally enjoyable episode.
So much fun. I was smiling and laughing.
A lot of good dialogue, jokes, and stuff. But this whole misunderstanding about the driver's license. Balky got his driver's license.
Oh yeah, way back in like season 2
or second season.
First or second season, yeah.
We know that he reports everything back to Mama, so she would have known.
He was always on the phone with her in the early seasons
already, right? That he
never told her
got the driver's license.
Do this.
He even bought a car and everything.
Yeah. So, okay. So you got to suspend disbelief a little bit. Maybe Mama has touched the dementia. She forgot. I don't know. Anything's possible.
Yeah. And secondly, don't you think Balki would have known that this was going to upset her?
Yeah, clearly they never discussed what his plans were. Like when he left, you gonna come back? Why are you going there?
But he knows Mama very well. Like if this was such a deeply held belief,
you must be a Mypiot.
You would have
always a Mypiot.
You would have known.
All he has to say is, "Mama, dual citizenship iki."
Yeah,
dual citizen iki.
Sheriki. Citizen Sheriki.
Yeah. He's like, we'll go talk to him.
All these things that we're meant to just overlook and take at face value.
But Gorply and Lydia are in a relationship or is
in the workplace.
And then I am excited that we are going to get to see Mypos for the first time, even though
this is very exciting.
It's a set.
Even though the language was ridiculous on this episode, but enjoyably so.
The language was,
enjoyably
I
ridiculous.
thought it was funny, yes.
One missed opportunity to have an old tomato gag.
As an old tomato.
And I don't know why. That's they repeat their jokes like ESPN 4 times or whatever. Old tomato is also a really stupid, easy gag. But you should have. It's the perfect place for a really stupid, easy joke.
I wonder if that was thrown around in the writer's room because that is pretty fun.
And then, because what's the thing about the chicken foot without a toe? There's no
I don't know what the significance.
Not connected to anything.
Yeah.
At least they could have made part of the gag explaining to us why the toe was missing.
But it's more implausible that she would carry a rotten tomato with her all the time.
But she was cooking. Maybe it was there with the groceries, and she picks it up, and she's like, old tomato.
Old tomato.
Well, because it wasn't even really explained why she has the chicken foot with her.
I'm just saying, a chicken's foot, easier to preserve and carry with you. It's not going to be mushy. You can just have it in your pocket. You dehydrate it.
Old tomato is a good
joke.
Old tomato is really behind good. It. It's
really
stupid, but it would have been great here.
Okay.
All right.
What did the listeners think there, sister?
What did our listeners think? First up, we have listener cousin Maria Khalaf, who writes, it was pretty emotional at the end, especially when Balki's mother threatened to disown him if he doesn't come back to Mypos with her. No parent should do that to their child unless they did something horrible.
Yeah, she's got a point. I agree.
Yes,
that's horrible.
Agreed, but I also think that Larry was being very ignorant American.
Yeah, you gotta be a little sensitive.
Just tell her you live here. You're just here now.
I'll fix this.
Leave everything behind. It's easy.
And you know what? He'll probably go fix it. We'll see. Maybe he screws it up worse and he doesn't fix it.
You're your own person, Balki. You don't have to listen to your mama anymore.
Or Larry. Do what you want. Just tell her you want to live.
Next up, we have cousin listener Pam Hitchcock, who writes, whoa, mama, Bronson had a great time playing her. I know he was tired of Balki at this point, but she was totally over the top, which I guess was the point of the character. Although entertaining, I hope to never see her. Oh, wow. Or more importantly, never hear her, except for an occasional Balki again. Alas, she will be back for part 2. I know I'm the only cousin who feels this way, but one manic Mypiot is enough for me, although I concede she did give a much-needed shot in the arm after those last 2 horrid episodes.
That's why it was fun. It was just a fun character for him.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took them that long to bring Mama like that.
They're running out of ideas. They're like, you know what? Let's do this. How do you feel about foam and latex?
Cousin Pam also writes, so in 6 years, Balki never, it's 5, we found out it's 5 years now. So in 5 years, Balki never told Mama his dream about becoming an American citizen.
Nope.
He seemed surprised at her reaction. You may think he purposely omitted that detail, but past episodes have shown us that Balki thinks that omission is the same thing as lying.
Okay.
Correct. Very correct. Again, we remind you in 1991, nobody was binge watching anything.
Yes.
And we forgot everything from week to week, season to season.
Or year to year. Yeah. How are you going to remember something from 4 years ago?
There might have been VHS box sets of the earlier seasons by this. I don't remember how that stuff worked back then. But
reruns in the summer.
Yeah. All right. But that's when in the summer you'd be like, hey, what was that?
No, but then you'd forget what you saw later.
Nobody thought like this. We didn't analyze shows like that closely.
I wish some of these sitcoms would go back to this kind of one-off style because now everything is so dependent.
Yeah, continue on Abbott and
where you can't just drop in and watch an episode. They don't make shows like that. Night Court, maybe. It's not very good.
Abbott you can watch.
No, but they've changed her job and there's relationships that continue.
True.
This is a show you could drop in and watch and not really need to explain much. But they don't really. I don't think there's shows like that anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
It's interesting.
Let's think about that for a bit. Okay, back to Cousin Pam, who also writes, getting a driver's license was a big deal to Balky, and he got it clear back in season 1. He would already have told Mama about a big event in his life. Why would she think there's a ceremony for it now?
Yeah.
Yep, agreed. There wasn't really an explanation as to why Balky wouldn't be a Meepiat if he became a U.S. citizen, or why that would be a reason to disown him.
Nope.
That's true. I mean, the first part of this, like, sure, we can assume that Mypos doesn't have that dual citizenship agreement or whatever. But the second part of this is very valid. Like, we are never told why she's so upset or why that would
she
be a
loves
reason
her
to disown
island.
him. Just like the assumption that like you're
loves
not
her
a
country.
Meepiat anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, she writes, does a chicken foot have multiple purposes? Why would Mama carry one around solely to throw? Maybe it doubles as a bottle opener.
Maybe she was going to throw it in a soup or something later. I don't know.
Maybe it's like why would Mama carry one around solely to threaten Balky? The seating arrangement at the table with Marianne, Jennifer, and Larry scrunched together on one side and no one opposite them was weird.
Fourth wall.
Needless to say, the tearful goodbye at the door tugged on your heartstrings, but 5 years, Balky?
It's only been 5 years in their reality.
In their world.
It's confirmed.
Yes, confirmed. She gives this episode 7.5 Bibi Bop.
That's
the positive
the good scale.
It's pretty good. Although she says, although I'm partially deaf now from Mama screeching. Next up, we have listener cousin Whitney Smith, who says, apart from The Men Who Knew Too Much, the two-parter from last season that was filmed where they went to L.A., she says this is her second favorite two-parter of the series because every season has one. We should do a review of the two-parters. Anyway, and she says we finally get to meet Balky's mama, and she is remarkably like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Yes. Cousin Whitney also wonders why Mama was carrying this chicken foot around with her, and she's like, I don't get this. Balky wasn't forgetting or deserting his Myposian heritage. He's just a U.S. citizen. I'm assuming he was going to have dual citizenship. Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, this is another thing that has been kind of bothering me, which goes all the way back to season 1 when Balky got his driver's license. Tell me if I'm wrong or not, because I don't know a lot about immigration rules, but don't you have to become a U.S. citizen first before you can obtain a driver's license?
I don't think so.
There are plenty of...
Think about it. There's a lot of driver's license holders
who are not citizens.
Yeah.
Think of all your Uber drivers and taxi drivers.
I don't think that's...
Yeah. You just have to have some kind of eligible status. It could be green card holder or resident or whatever stages of... You do have to have some... You do have to be documented.
In the country,
you cannot be documented, but to get a license.
You don't have to be a citizen.
Correct,
okay, good to know.
Correct. Cousin Whitney was trying to think of like alternative storylines or reasons that could have worked in this episode. She couldn't think of anything except that maybe Mama would become suddenly ill while she was there and she needed some kind of medical care, and Balky had to go home with her to help take care of her and the livestock or whatever at home. That could work, I guess.
Okay.
But she did enjoy that Larry was being good in this episode and kind and doing things, kind gestures.
Yeah, he was trying to surprise Balky with
surprising, translating,
learning,
speaking even mistaken Myposian, but he made the effort. She says, after watching this episode, I too feel like I'm fluent in Myposian. I especially find myself saying, what the biggie dealie a lot.
What the biggie dealie? That's a good one to bring back into the...
Yeah. She didn't like the weird thing with Gorpley and Lydia. As I said, let's wait to see if we see more of that or if that was just a one-off weird thing. Cousin Whitney liked this two-parter. She just wished the concept for Mama was thought out a little bit better, like why she's so upset about. And more.
It's a little thin, but whatever. Yeah. It's fine. Mama's done.
We get it. We get the general emotion. We don't know why, but okay.
Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe
part 2.
There is a part 2 still. And finally, we have listener cousin Jason Kurinko, who writes, I love Mama. Until she appeared, I didn't realize I had fond memories of these episodes.
Oh.
He writes, he's the same age as me, so he saw these episodes when he was 12 and didn't realize Bronson played both Balky and his mama. Yeah, you can't really tell.
He does a really good job with the makeup
is good.
And the acting,
He does a great job, and it was technically pretty seamless. It would have been nice to get a dance of joy, but now But now I suppose that was next to impossible. He's talking about between Balki and his mama.
Oh, and his mama. No, but we saw.
But they could have done it with his brother.
No, there's no way. You see both of them, and he's holding one in the one shot.
Like a slight angle. You could turn. He could hold him, but his head could be turned the other way.
When they do this, you see both of them clearly.
But for one time, they could have turned the angle and just showed the back of.
I mean, like we saw in the preview, you're gonna get Larry and Mama doing a dance of joy, which is technically the same.
I think it could be done. Cousin Jason, I think they could have done it.
They had the technology.
They just didn't. They were. I don't know. All right, Cousin Jason wants a dance of joy. I want an old tomato. That's what we want from this episode. Okay, he also writes, Mr. Gorbley and Lydia in the workplace? Yikes.
Scandalous.
Not particularly PS today.
No, that is a lawsuit. That's a firing.
Well, they're probably not like boss and subordinate. They're in two different departments. Anyway.
I mean, now even that's problematic
runs
sometimes.
The basement or something.
Yeah.
Also,
different departments.
He says, also, do you think we can still get away with casting male actors to play mother
that's
roles?
what I brought up too, because now you'd be like, oh, you're taking away. But look, my one example is that movie, Matt Reeves' The Batman. Colin Farrell puts on a fat, ugly suit to play the Penguin. And I'm like, you just took a job away.
Yeah, and there was a big discussion with the Brendan Fraser movie, The Whale.
Some of that was CG too, and he had a suit on. Yeah,
and they're like, why can't you? I don't know. It's complicated.
On the other hand, it's called acting.
Yeah,
you're playing pretend. But today, it'd be like, oh, you can take a job away from an older lady. I don't know if you can do. I don't know if you can do that.
You can't.
You'd have to. It would have to. We'll get into it. Okay. You'd have to do some kind of stunt casting, right?
Like all those Eddie Murphy movies where he actually just plays everyone.
Well, yeah. What about that? He plays all the what are those called? What's that family?
Clumps or something?
The clump. Meet
the
clumps.
He plays the whole,
which is hilarious.
But I guess the Hollywood's response to that is like, that's the gag.
Yeah.
Like we're doing it overly on purpose.
He does impressions and characters.
But if it's just one character, then you're like, why didn't you just get
that thought had come into my mind. I was like, oh, they could have got somebody.
But I think they could explain that in this as well. Like, that's the gag. We wanted Balki to be the other Myposian as well.
Yeah.
Although they've had other Myposians who are not played by Balki.
But he played his cousin, so maybe it's like he plays his immediate relatives.
All right. Back to Cousin Jason, who writes, I suppose it gets a pass because it's comedy, but I think this is about Balki playing his mama. I suppose it gets a pass because it's comedy, but I think today we could give the role of mama to a qualified actress. Okay, yes. I also thought that it was weird nobody mentioned the financial straits Balki leaving the country would bring. I thought this too. Like, they were just okay with, like, okay, let's go back. Cousin Jason puts it in good words. Just a few episodes ago, Larry and Jennifer were on the struggle bus paying the rent in this house until Balki and Marianne moved in. Now he's leaving and they'll be just fine. How much does Marianne make? But bonus points for the Dimitri episode, even though it was a sad moment.
Appearance. Yeah, great Dimitri.
Agreed. I said that too while we were watching. I was like, how are they have to get a fourth roommate. How are they going to pay the rent?
They need to put a classified ad out right away or get Balki back.
I mean, Balki's probably the lowest earner of the four of them.
Mailroom versus his reporters versus. I bet that girls make way more than they do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So maybe they're fine and like they got promotions, but that's a good point. Like, wait a minute. Shouldn't you be upset that now you can't afford this giant house that you couldn't afford in the first place? Don't be ridiculous was not said.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
She could have said it.
Missed opportunity for Mama to say it.
But, so we saw Dimitri, his picture on the mantle, and then, super sad emotional moment.
Yes.
As he's in the scene.
Dimitri becomes, maybe Dimitri will go to the swearing in and become the American.
Does Larry take Dimitri with him to Mypos? Do we see, like, they just sell these on a cart?
Yeah.
He's like, hey.
All the Dimitris.
I thought Dimitri was special. Well, everybody just has a Dimitri. Or does everybody have a Dimitri sheep on Mypos? I don't know.
That was like, there was an episode of This Is Us that I recently rewatched. Don't do that again.
It's very sad.
It's just like the characters are so annoying on the rewatch. You love them when it first aired, but then on this rewatch, you're like, this family is so into themselves. but Kevin, their dad like died or whatever.
Right.
Their dad was in the military in Vietnam.
Spoilers if you've never seen This Is Us.
Anyway, there's an episode like the dad had given the one son, Kevin, like some necklace that he got when he was overseas. And then later as an adult, he goes back and he's been wearing this necklace his whole life as like a sort of memento from his father. And he sees them just being sold like a bunch of these.
Like everybody has.
Just like a classic tourist thing.
Hey,
and he's like, oh.
I thought this was
and it's not meant to be funny, but I laugh so hard.
This was a treasure that you
like,
found.
Sucker. You got some cheapy.
Yes, there's Dimitri sheep everywhere.
Tourist souvenir. Okay. So now we're at Perfect Strangers today. We've kind of mentioned some things. This is the segment of this show where we talk about, could we remake this episode today? What things would hold up? What would need to get updated or rethought or whatever? So, citizenship, yes, people still have swearing in.
Still a thing.
I have friends who have been sworn in.
Or sworn
I'm not sure if they have to take tests.
I think you still have to take a test or a class.
I have to ask my friends. I have two friends recently who got sworn in.
There's got to be a test. They give you a test to get a driver's license. They got to give you a test for this.
No, but some people are like sponsored through their work and stuff, and then they just like go through this green card process, and then I don't know. I don't know how that works. I should. I have friends who have gone through it.
So that's still a thing, and I think I like the idea of bringing his mama in and the Myposian, but I really think you are going to stunt cast the mom as someone you would not think would be on like a sitcom. Like Meryl Streep shows up or something crazy.
Or like
to play this over-the-top character. That's out of character for that
like
actor.
Betty White if she was around.
Yeah, like someone who's beloved, you'd bring them in and then you make her do a really bad accent.
Martha Stewart.
Is the accent problematic? I don't know. It's a made-up island.
It's not a real country.
Yeah.
It's not a real language.
Oh my God,
the language,
Martha Stewart.
that's why I was like getting angry just as a language person, but it's not a real language. So like,
it shouldn't be offensive.
I think that was their way around a lot of things. It's not a real place.
Which is great. So you could get away with a lot. You just like, that's how they do it at Mypos.
Mypos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we like remade this show today, would it still be Mypos or would we?
However, the technology is way more improved. You can have one actor playing multiple characters on a show. You ever seen Orphan Black? Tatiana Maslany is in this show about clones. She plays 5 to 7 different versions of this clone. Wow. There are whole episode scenes where there's 5 different one of her on scene.
Oh, wow.
And you'll forget that it's just her.
Oh,
it's completely seamless.
I hope she gets awards.
It's amazing acting, and the tech is seamless. I'm like, there's such different characters. You forget it's the same girl playing these 5 clones. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So you can get away with it if that's part of, but in that show, they're clones. So that's how it's doable. Would you get in trouble putting one of them in drag?
No, I think the point is fair. It would be more of a discussion now to like put a stunt cast or like, a prominent older woman actress in that role. But I think you could also maybe explain it and be like, that's the gag. Like we did it as a gag on purpose to have Balki play. I don't know. It's a lot of questions. Would it still be Mypos? Would it? Yeah.
I don't know how it would play, but I kind of feel like you could do a lot of this in almost the same
television thing wouldn't.
Oh. Well, she could still grab the TV off the wall.
Yeah, big one.
Kind of fit it in the closet. It'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, that would be funny.
But like all those jokes still play. I feel like
one thing that would be different, like I said before, is like it wouldn't be as emotional. It's not as emotional when you leave a place now because we're so connected and you can literally see
instantly
people's
talk
faces.
to the person while
you can talk to them while they're leaving, while they arrive.
Nobody ever
you
goes
can
anywhere
see their
anymore.
faces.
Yeah,
You're connected on Instagram. You can
WhatsApp,
chat all the time. It's so much easier to stay connected. But like I remember 20 years ago, when I was traveling around, like my first young person I would be like 3 months, 4 months. I would have made friends. I would have stayed with families. And it was very emotional to be like, I'm going back and I don't know when I'll ever see you again. And we can't just like hop on FaceTime or whatever.
Do they have tech in these little villages? Do they have cell phones now?
And this was 91. So it was like real emotional. So
what about
that
now?
emotion.
Do you think that's changed now?
They have. I went back to the village I stayed in.
Do they have cell phones?
They have cell phones and internet. They still don't have. I went back in 2017.
Okay.
After having left in 2004.
Okay.
4.
Okay.
And I stayed there for 3 years in the early noughts, and I went back in 2017. they had cell phones and Wi-Fi
There you go.
and more consistent electricity. They still didn't have plumbing in the village.
But
they were like, it's coming. They tell us it's coming.
To Instagram. That's
but
the important
but
part.
they had internet. Whereas when I was there, I literally had to explain to the kids, like they had never touched a computer.
Wow.
They didn't know what internet was. And the interesting thing is 2017, they still don't have computers in the village.
But
so
they have cell phones.
That knowledge of internet through computer is maybe lost, but to them, the phones are connected.
So that actually, what's funny is a lot of
don't have like computers.
A lot of the tech futurists say that this computer setup, keyboard, screen, this is all going to go away.
This is
the next generation, these devices, you can do everything on your iPad, on your phone. You're not going to need. You can attach a keyboard to these. You're not going to need.
I already feel so old because
keyboard and laptops.
I like to pull up. This is such an old person thing now. I think I feel so old because I like to use all the social media apps on the web platform, on the desktop, because I like to type long notes and comments, whatever, on a proper keyboard. But nobody does that. People are like, why are you using that? The app is better. I'm like, I can't do the thumb type. I can do it if I have to, but it's so much faster for me to type on the keyboard, regular keyboard.
First of all, have you seen those Apple Vision Pro goggles?
Yeah.
That, I'm not kidding. That eventually is going to change the way everybody interacts. So all those windows that you're talking about, imagine all that just floating in the air in front of you. And then you just look at it to activate
type in the air.
You can type in the air. It reads your eye movement. So you just look at something and you flick your finger and it clicks.
But like people don't even know how to type anymore.
So that
properly.
The other thing that reminds me of, I just saw this movie called Blackberry last night.
Okay.
It is the story of
the Blackberry.
Oh, what's
that on?
It's on Hulu. It's really good. From the rise in 1996 to their eventual being obsolete by like 2008, 2003.
No, I used a BlackBerry up until 2018 from work in the government. Yeah,
okay.
They were at that point switching to iPhones, but I was still doing BlackBerry
because they're a little more secure.
Up to 2018.
But remember the BlackBerry, the whole thing was like the tactile keyboard, the click, and then iPhone comes out and they're like, why put this keyboard here? The whole thing's a screen, and BlackBerry's like, whoa.
Which is so funny because
now BlackBerry's obsolete now.
In the government, before they switched all to iPhones, they had first started offering two versions. When I was still there, they had started offering two models of BlackBerry.
Okay.
You could either have the tactile keyboard or the full screen
came
like the iPhone-like screen one. And a lot of people myself included, I chose the old one. Yeah. Because I liked that tactile
BlackBerry
keyboard.
At the time thought that iPhone was a joke. It's a toy. Yeah. People want their keyboard. Yeah. And then they tried to make the one with the full screen.
They did.
They also started, up until that point, they didn't want to manufacture in China. It was all manufactured here because it was
good for them. Yeah.
It was better. They can control it. The guy finally concedes to manufacture in China, and they all have this hiss that drives him crazy. He's got to fix it. And eventually, it just becomes obsolete. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
And it's all shot kind of like a documentary. The whole time you're peeking through windows, around doors. You're like across the street. It's like it's like you're just like this fly. Like you're just kind of in the.
That's cool.
The whole movie is shot like that. It's really well done. It's just called Blackberry on Hulu. Very good. I love those movies.
Did you watch the Flaming Hot Cheetos?
I love that one.
That
I love these product bios, these biopics about products that have come out. The Tetris one is great. They're so good. So check
I haven't
out.
seen the Tetris one either, but I heard it's really good.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. Enough for the tangents. Next week, join us. Very exciting. We're going to Mypos, listener.
Mypos.
After all these episodes, all these seasons, we are going to Mypos.
Very excited.
In the meantime, you can support the show in another way with your digdas, with your rubles, with your pocket change. Visit our website. Click on that Buy Us a Coffee button. It's a little virtual tip jar. All proceeds go back into producing the show, keeping it coming. And we appreciate everyone's support, however you choose to support.
And one of the ways you can choose to support us is totally, completely, 100% free. You can visit us at danceofjoypod.com. Please go to that website and click on all the things that it'll let you click on. From that site, you can go to all the various places where you can stream this podcast and listen to this podcast. You could also do us a huge favor by clicking subscribe or like and leave us a rating or a review. Also, we'd love to hear from you from that very website. You can press a button and leave us a voice message. Tell us what you think about Mama Bartokomous. Tell us what happened to that missing toe on the chicken foot. You can also explain that to us in writing via old-fashioned electronic mail. Speaking of old-fashioned, type on your QWERTY keyboard. Send us an electronic mail message
a message on that BlackBerry.
danceofjoypod@gmail.com. And from our website, you can also link to all of our social media pages. Please give us a follow. It helps us. Every follow we get helps us with this show. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send us a note, follow us, be our friends. But Imran, what is the most important thing our listeners should do?
Well, if you want to become a U.S. citizen, just prepare to be sworn at, just cussed out. It'll make you a true American. It's a rite of passage.
In Chicago, New York,
wherever you are, in whatever dialect. Once you get sweared at, you are an American.
Yes.
The important thing is to share the show. Like I said, BlackBerry was the first people to introduce instant messaging.
Oh.
And on their own network. So send us a Crackberry.
Oh, no, it was called a BBM or BlackBerry message. It was called a BBM.
Yeah, BBM. Yeah. And they figured out how to do it and that not cost. They were the first company
device to device.
Device to device didn't cost money like a text message.
Yeah.
It was free texting only from BlackBerry.
Yep.
Anyways, watch that movie. What was I talking about?
Share this show with a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way. That stuff helps us as well. It's so simple. It's so easy. You may think it's trivial, but it really, really helps us. Talk about Dance of Joy podcast. Talk about Perfect Strangers, this beautiful show that we remember all these years later. And we will really appreciate it. That's our show for today. Now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy. We do the dance of joy. Hey, hey.